About a month ago, I had the privilege of visiting Paris while I was on my study abroad semester, and I was extremely excited, as you'll see in the video, because I had always wanted to visit Paris. Like most people, I had a really romanticized view of the city, especially having watched vlogs about it before. I even had this clear vision in my head of staying in an apartment with a great view of the city, falling in love with Paris, and feeling like the main character. But that was not actually my experience of Paris, and it might not be yours either. The number one thing on my bucket list was to see Monet's water lilies in Paris because it was a dream of mine ever since I discovered art through Tumblr in high school. I even put a picture of the water lilies on my mood board for 2023 and read a book about Monet's life. Although I found the water lilies to be still really beautiful and it was still a great experience to learn more about his painting process, I couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. My expectations were set high because of everything I had heard about Paris, and they weren't really met. We are here in Paris. It's so gloomy, but it's still pretty, but it's really gloomy. And honestly, other people that vlog on YouTube don't tell you how much construction there is. My life dream has been to see Monet's water lilies, and it did live up to expectations. It was beautiful, but also I expected a different experience. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Monet's final wishes was to enjoy this in silence for everyone as a meditative thing. The amount of people just talking so loud in that room.
Some people were also doing a photo shoot.
I had Paris syndrome, which is when your expectations of Paris don't meet the reality. I was also interested to learn that when it comes to Paris syndrome, it's most often affecting Japanese tourists and can even manifest itself in physical sickness. After a night of crying in Paris. The view's still cute. That first night in Paris, I had a bit of a mental breakdown because of Paris syndrome, but it also kind of snowballed into something else entirely. I was thinking constantly about all of the other things that were stressing me out at the time, including the fact that I had been homesick for the month leading up to this trip. I was stressed about post-grad life. I had been moving to different living situations multiple times a year for the past few years, and in that moment, I was deeply, deeply seeking stability. The next day, Tyler and I decided to take the day slowly and actually ended up laying in bed and watching the movie Ratatouille for a part of the day, which was pretty fitting considering we were in Paris. We also just kind of needed that reminder that not every moment has to be planned. Travel is for relaxing, and making the most of a trip doesn't necessarily always mean trying to see everything, and I think I felt a lot of guilt surrounding that. This is when I started to like Paris a lot more, being a bit more spontaneous, taking leisurely walks instead of rushing on the metro, and having less expectations. Of course, that sounds like common sense and is easy to say looking back now that I'm out of it, but it's definitely a lesson to take forward on future travels. I still have very mixed feelings about Paris, but maybe that'll change if I come back one day, and maybe if you're watching this, you might not expect as much of Paris as you might have before. The bright side is that going to Paris really made me appreciate Strasbourg, the city I'm in for exchange in France, a lot more because I realized how much this place has started to feel more like home, and I've built a bit of a life for myself here. Although I'm still very excited to go home, I am a lot happier here now than I was going into that trip where I was feeling really homesick. So maybe there was kind of a bright side to doing that trip in the first place. I know this isn't the biggest deal and seems like the most major first world problem ever, but I kind of just wanted to shine a different light on Paris than usually the hyper-romanticized reputation it always gets. Going into this vlog, I thought I was going to be representing Paris in the same way that I imagined it. I thought that I was going to love this city and vlog it just like every other vlogger I've seen on YouTube where they kind of fall in love with it. But it kind of didn't end up that way, and this is what I've gotten out of it. Till next time, take care of yourself. Bye.